Hi everyone, it's Roger here from What's On at DisneyPlus.com. It's time for the weekly live Q&A. So a big hello and welcome to everyone. A big thank you to all of my Patreon and YouTube channel members. Your support really does mean a huge amount. So big thank you to everyone. If you're a subscriber, thank you very much for being so as well, all of which helps. And if you are brand new here, click that subscribe button as well. So each and every week I do a Q&A for our Patrons and YouTube channel members. But I like to put it out for everyone so that everyone can be able to watch it. Obviously, as well, anyone can take part as well by using the super chat function, all of which helps support the website and the channel and everything. So it really does mean a huge amount to me as well. So we've got lots and lots of different questions and stuff today. So kind of the title of today is 2025 a make or break year for Marvel Studios? And I've put up a question here asking you which film you're most excited to see. Everyone can vote. Captain America is currently leading with 64% of the vote. Thunderbolts and Fantastic Four. I'm going to be honest. I think for me, I think Captain America has definitely been jumping up. I'm not watching any more trailers. I'm not watching any clips. I'm at that point now. I've seen the first two trailers. I don't want to see anything more now until the movie. I'm going to go see it. I like Captain America. And more importantly, I love Red Hulk, so I want to see what they do with this one. I think for me, I think Thunderbolts is the one I think that's going to be I'm probably going to enjoy the most. Fantastic Four is probably the one I would probably say I'm more interested to see what they do with this one, because this is characters that we've not seen in the MCU before. It's going to be a different take for it. The previous movies have been great, but I've kind of got a lot of hope for that one. So Kaylee did ask, is it going to be a make or break year? 2023 was a bad year and 2024 was an anomaly. So I think 2025, and this is my honest feelings on this, and let me know what you think in the comments as well, of 2025 feels a little bit like Marvel's got too many projects in the tank and it needs to get rid of a few, and it doesn't really know, it's almost like, right, because I think in terms of movies, we've got 3 movies, which is 2 more than we had last year. And I think 3 movies, that's fine. I mean, I personally would have loved for maybe for a little bit of a bump back. So maybe Fantastic Four jumps back into the winter a little bit more, and then Thunderbolts comes out maybe June. I would probably space them out a little bit more. But obviously, after Deadpool did so well last year, I can see why Disney want to go for the July date rather than a November date, because that one hasn't always done so well. So that could be a reason for it. So I think 3 movies, good. In terms of series, obviously we've got Daredevil Born Again, which I think is going to be a big hit. I think that one's going to hit the right tone. I think people are going to be happy with it, or I hope so, as long as it can live up to the previous series. But if it's dark and gritty, the adults are going to like it. I think Ironheart feels a little bit like a show that that probably wouldn't get made greenlit if it was today. And I'll be perfectly honest, I don't think that was a series that they necessarily needed to do. They obviously kind of brought her in on Black Panther Wakanda Forever, and I don't think the character was needed. They could have done that. They could have done something very different, but they were shoehorning in these new characters, and it feels like the entire plan kind of got sort of shoved on delay. And this is a bump-on effect. This series should have come out 2 years ago, and I think they're just going to shove it out there. I think the big thing for me is with Ironheart is are they going to go with a weekly drop, or are they going to drop this entire thing at once just to get it out the gate? Because that's what I think is going to happen. I think that could very easily. Ironheart could be a lot better than I'm expecting, but all these delays, Ironheart feels like a show that's a bit like Echo, where they just want to kind of throw it out there and get it out of the way. Wonder Man looks like that could be very interesting, a little different take. I'm also not expecting to see that one maybe until Christmas, till maybe even after Christmas. I'm not expecting it to be that's what I'm expecting. I think 3 series, I still think that's a little bit too much. And I think we will be seeing a little bit less moving forward. But yeah, no, I think that's fine. To me, where the Marvel's 2025 is a problem is the animated department. I do think Spider-Man, Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, this is a show that's coming out in 2 weeks, right? And I am not going to lie, I do not see the excitement for this series. the fact that Marvel are like throwing it out in February, 2-3 episodes a week for the whole of the month, says to me, like, why are you doing this? Why is there no merchandise? Why is there no toys? You think like X-Men 97, there was toys out in stores. This is Spider-Man, and it feels a little bit like this is a show that is just being thrown out because they've made it. And I don't know. I don't like the premise of it. I don't really like the art style. It's not really grown on me too much more. I'll give it a go, but I'm not necessarily too sure of it. I'm going to wait, obviously, till I see it. But I'm just not convinced that Spider-Man, your friendly neighborhood one, is. I'm just not convinced this is. Normally with these kind of shows, Marvel is going all out on trying to get kids merchandise, trying to get it in the supermarkets, trying to get it out there. Also, why, if you do want to do that, you want to get this show out ready for Christmas to get more money from like dropping it in January just doesn't make any sense from that point of view, unless they know that we are not spending any money on toys and stuff on this because it's just going to bomb and it's not good enough. That's one thought. Eyes of Wakanda, again, 4 episodes. I think it looks like it's going to be a binge drop. Maybe, who knows? We don't really know exactly. We just know the date is going to be beginning of August. I think that will be a binge drop. Just drop 4 episodes. Bing, bada, boom. I think that one could be interesting. But again, it feels like that should have been a series. And then they ended up turning it into an animated series because to try and save money. Again, do we need Eyes of Wakanda? Is that a series that was necessary? Is that not a series that I'm just not sure, again, if Eyes of Wakanda would have been greenlit had it been today. I think Marvel Zombies, I'm personally interested in it because I did the What If episode with the zombies was my favorite. So I definitely would like to see a little bit more of that one. That one, I feel a little bit more like, okay, if you want to do like 1 or 2 animated series a year, that one seems a little bit different. They're trying something, and maybe for Halloween and stuff, it kind of makes sense a little bit more. But I think when you put 3 movies, 3 series, and 3 animated shows together, plus you got Moon Girl and like the new Iron Man Junior show. I mean, technically it's all coming out on this year on Disney Plus. Feels a lot. Feels a little bit too much. And I feel there is too much. I think moving into 2026, we're probably going to see a much bigger reduction. 2-3 movies, and I would imagine Wonder Man for the beginning part of the year, and maybe just Vision Quest. That might be the only series we might get. Or maybe Daredevil season 2 might slide in there. But I think we're going to see a lot less. But let's jump in and see what you think. Miles says, in the case of Fantastic Four, the adaptation, the film was by Josh Trank, was truly awful. Yeah, it wasn't very good. It wasn't very good. I'm excited to see how Fantastic Four, since the last versions were hit and miss. I didn't think Fantastic Four, the first one with Jessica Alba, I think I went cinema to see that one. I did enjoy it. I thought it was okay. It was, and the trouble is as well as these movies, we're looking at them now through the eyes of comic book movies have changed so much since those first Fantastic Four films come out. We're into a much deeper era where stories can be a little bit more, hard-hitting, gritty stuff. Fantastic Four feels like one of those like 90s movies, a little bit out of state. Kenneth says, I believe it's since they don't have the excuse of Chapek on the strikes anymore, 2025 is going to be the year to see if Feige still has it or not. I think there is a few, like I said before, there's a few projects coming out in 2025 which are part of the Chapek era. Ironheart is definitely, I think, one of them. And maybe also your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. I'm going to put those 2 ones, and maybe even Eyes of Wakanda. I'm going to put them into that. Feels very much like the Chapek era, and they just need to get them out. And that's where I do think we're still at that point of trying to get a few of these things out the gate. But I do think with all the changes they made with Daredevil, that's probably a good thing. Yeah, I think they've got a good stab at it. I do think with Agatha and Deadpool both kind of being so good and both being hits that's restored some faith in it. I think even a little bit of Echo kind of did well, but I do wonder, like with What If, again, these animated shows go through it, they don't go on the same level, they don't hit the same. So I don't know. I think it's going to be interesting to see what they do with it. I'm just going to keep on the Marvel ones at the minute. Right. Okay, let's jump on to the next question. So Babak says, I noticed that Abbott and Jimmy Kimmel all say now 20th century instead of ABC signature. Does that mean the merger between 20th and ABC is complete now? It was complete the minute they announced it. They announced that they were doing it, and that was it. Essentially, they have just merged the two divisions together. Neither of them really kind of go out, they're not, it doesn't really make a lot of sense for them to it doesn't really make a lot of difference. And I think they're just trying to get 20th television to be the core brand. ABC doesn't mean anything internationally. And also, I think it separates those shows from ABC. I think there's that little bit of a problem as well with that. But yeah, no, it went through the minute it went through. Bubba Trolling says, why did Disney remove National Geographic content from Disney Plus in the past? So there's a lot of National Geographic content that has been removed from Disney Plus, not just in the US, but globally, here and there. So I think there's going to be a couple of reasons for this. First off, a lot of this stuff is licensed on like long-term licensing. And therefore, those deals come to the end. There might be residuals. They might have to still pay for it. And therefore, they are going to be looking at the viewership day. If there is a lot of people that are not watching, some random documentary, and it's costing them how much is it costing them to keep on the running on the system, and how many people are watching it? If that's where it comes into, and also some of it also might just be out of date stuff, but I do think some of this is probably just down to them just trying to save money. And the National Geographic content is not probably the most watched stuff on Disney Plus. They do seem to really drastically cut back how much stuff they're making. Most of the shows that were kind of long running have seemed to they've all been wrapped up now. We've hardly got any of those classic long running 10, 20 season series. They all seem to just come to an end on National Geographic now. Miles says, could Disney establish a filmmaking studio in Ireland to expand its European operations similar to Warner Brothers Studio in the UK and attracting local filmmaking? I don't know if they necessarily need to make a studio. I know they obviously rent a lot of space out, and they do film stuff in Ireland. They obviously film a lot here in the UK. I don't think we need any more studios in we don't need I don't know, Disney UK kind of. They are already, Walt Disney Studios already is making a load of movies here. Searchlight Movies makes a lot here. They're already very heavily investing in UK and Ireland locations. And I think why complicate it with having different studios and stuff? Might as well just release it under 20th Century, Disney, etc., rather than having different kind of branding. And I still think at the minute, personally, I would still merge together Searchlight and 20th and kind of get rid of that a little bit. Keenan says, seems like Mufasa the Lion King is going to make a profit. How does this affect future live action remakes? Yeah, I believe it's done pretty well over the weekend. It is still the #1 movie in the United States. I know Sonic fans don't seem to like the fact that Mufasa actually has been a hit. I think, what are we at the minute? I'll just have a look. Box office. Let's just have a look. Box office. Mojo, The Lion King. It's almost like I was looking at this yesterday. Moana's just gone over $1 billion, which is good. Nice to see that one doing it. So Mufasa is currently sitting at 591 million. So yeah, it is probably crouching into the thing of it probably is going to make a profit. It's done reasonably well. Obviously, it's still got digital and home video and stuff, but it's doing okay. I would definitely say that Mufasa is not a flop. Nearly 6. It's going to be over 600 million. It's not. I mean, it's $1 billion less than the first movie. So in that way, you could say it's a flop. But I think #1 movie in the country, #1 movie in the world for a couple of weeks. It's pulling in some money. I don't think it's not bad. It could have been a lot. It could have been a lot worse. I did wonder if this was going to, because it felt like running up to Mufasa coming out that people weren't going to check it. There wasn't a lot of excitement over it, but it's done all right. Whether and how this affects future live action movies, I think it's obviously. I mean, there's rumors that they might do another one because obviously, but they'll keep. The good thing is with any future movies of the Lion King, is the technology is kind of, they can keep tweaking it and get better, but a lot of the expense of designing all the technology and doing a lot of it is kind of was wrapped up in the first one and the second one. So the third one should probably be a little bit cheaper. It's one of the things that Disney and Pixar do with their animation studios. A lot of the movie budgets are very high because there's a lot of money spent on technology and R&D, which then goes into later movies. I think the big one's going to be is how badly does Snow White do might be the punch in the face that we're like, yeah, this I still think that they are aware that live action movies are more risky. They're not a done deal. And I think they've got to be more careful with it. I think they've got to treat it a little bit like Marvel and Star Wars, where they start being a little bit more like, let's give it a little bit more time. But I do think that's the case. Let's jump into the live chat. Let's see what we've got. Matt says, do you think they'll do an original live action Disney movie? Well, they make original live action movies. You know, they do them. You know, the Young Woman in the Sea is a original Disney movie. You know, they do have these ones coming up, but they are going to balance it a little bit more. I think they got a little bit like blasé and a little bit, I wouldn't say lazy, but I think they just saw all these live action movies and were just to keep churning them out. I do think we're going to see more of them. As Miles says, the fact that they've got a new leader, David Greenbaum, he's much more into, they know that they've got to do originals and they know they've got to do sequels. You aren't going to get all original. They know they have to sprinkle it in, because if they don't do original stuff, they'll never get the new IP. You have to look at, like, if you say, look, let's look back at the last 10 years. You know, they had to make Strange, you know, they took a role with Strange World. It didn't work. Elemental worked. You know, Moana worked. Encanto worked. You know, sometimes these movies work, sometimes they don't. Onwards didn't. You know, there are going to be movies that do work and some movies that don't work. Candace says, I did say the Disney live action fatigue is much worse than comic book movie fatigue. The Disney live action remakes weren't massively beloved like the MCU and the Infinity Saga. I think we're going to look at it in two ways. I think one of the big advantages is Disney did a lot of the most popular live action remakes, you know, like Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, you know, The Little Mermaid. These are all ones that the generation that was going to the cinema, grew up on and have a little bit more connection with. It's a little bit harder with, and like Lion King, etc. I think Mufasa, we kind of have to take away from that because it's not really necessarily a live action remake. You know, it is something original in some ways. But yeah, I think like Snow White, etc. I think there's a lot of stuff for that movie that isn't going to work. Kane says kind of like Disney and Pixar. Yeah, I think that's the way to look at it. They have a couple of theatrical original live actions, just not. Yeah, they've got to mix it up. Barbatronic says, do you think that Disney Plus will add Marvel HQ? No, I don't think it's necessary. I think Marvel HQ is just a YouTube channel. It doesn't really need to do anything for that one, I don't think. Bobic says, I just heard that only 3 movies made over $1 billion. Deadpool and Wolverine, Moana 2 and Inside Out 2. What do you predict for 2025 in terms of Disney movies? So there are 2 movies that I definitely think have got a very good chance of hitting the $1 billion. So Avatar 3, I think that's a shoehorn. I think that's going to hit $1 billion. The last 2 did 2. I'm not sure if Avatar 3 will hit $2 billion, but I think Avatar will hit $1 billion, no doubt. I think Zootopia 2 has a very good chance of hitting $1 billion. The first one did. I think the characters are even more loved now. So I definitely think they will. In terms of Marvel, I'm not sure if all three of the ones that are coming out, if they could hit something between $500 and $800 million, I think that'll be good for them. I'm not expecting any of the Marvel movies to hit $1 billion. Fantastic Four could do if it's really, really good, but it is going to be going up against Superman, so there is that issue there. So Lilo and Stitch, I'm not sure that one will do, but it could do. Considering that was a Disney Plus movie, but Moana 2 was. So Lilo and Stitch could be the outliner. That could be a little sneaky little one I could get in there if it's really good. Hi, Knoxway. Thank you very much for joining. Miles says, in chapter 4 of Bob Iger's book, The Ride of a Lifetime, Iger recounts the original and curated content launch for Disney Plus, including the Pixar series. Could that allude to Win or Lose? I wonder if my initial, because when I remember when I originally started doing what's on Disney Plus, that the initial amount of stuff that got announced, one of them was Loki, one of them was essentially, one of them would go on to become Andor, and one of the first shows they announced was Monsters at Work. And technically it wasn't a Pixar series, but it was based on, and I do wonder if he might have been referring to Monsters at Work, because that was one of the first initial shows. If you go back on this channel and find like one of the very first ones that we did as part of what's on Disney Plus, yeah, we, I think, I'm wondering if Monsters at Work might have just been in that zone. Knoxway said, Moana 2 has just reached $1 billion, so they are going to be loving. So Moana is now a $1 billion franchise. I think it's one of only 53 movies in the lifetime that has actually been over $1 billion. So Moana is a good one. Killian says, James Cameron said that Avatar would have to be one of the most highest grossing films to make a profit. Yeah, I mean, the good thing is with Avatar now is that a lot of the costs, like I said earlier, a lot of the development and the technology was they'll make the money really on like 3, 4, and 5, because a lot of that was sunk into number 2. Obviously, filming things at the same, they'll have done a lot more stuff to make it a little bit more be able to get through. Let's see what we go. Baba Trolling says, do you think that Disney will release more information about Flagship on their Q1 earnings call? Maybe. I think they're going to have to outline a little bit of their plans a little bit, because we don't really know too much of what's happening with Star India. I think that needs to be resolved a little bit. They're obviously going to get asked questions about Fubo, about venue, and probably a little, I don't think we'll get any information about ESPN Flagship. I think they might hold off on that until the next quarter, because they don't want to go too early. So maybe another 3 months, that would get them into, what would that be, May? That might be a better time to get them ready for an August launch for the start of the NFL season. I think if they go now, it might be a little bit too early, but I think they've got other things that they could be talking about. Maybe they announce they've sorted out the Hulu deal. Maybe they announce the Star India. I have a feeling that that would make more sense. But they are going to get a lot of questions about that, no doubt. Mao says, if Win or Lose is successful, could Pixar establish a standalone television unit to Marvel Television under the Disney Entertainment Television division? I don't think so. I think all signs point to Win or Lose will probably be the last series we see from Pixar, because essentially Pixar went all in on Disney Plus. They were creating series like Dream Productions. They were doing other projects, too many movies. Pixar can't cope with doing too much stuff. They got distracted and the box office struggled. We saw movie after movie struggling. And then they pulled everything back, and look what happened with Inside Out 2. They are focused now on theatrical, and Disney Plus is no longer that priority in the same way of how they were doing it. Now I think they've realized that just spending money on series isn't necessarily going to bring in any more subscribers. They've got the Hulu side that brings the stuff in. They can release a few major shows a year, and I think Pixar is probably going to focus back just on being theatrical again. Let's have a look. Let's do a poll on that one, actually. We'll do a poll on that one. So start a poll. Question is, do you think Pixar will make more TV series? Yes or no. Keep it simple. Anyone can vote on that one. King says, do you think the Lion King Hollywood Bowl should have been streamed live instead of being filmed? I mean, there would have been some advantages to doing it as a live event. That would have definitely been interesting to see them, how they could have done that one. But obviously the way they film it over 2 nights means that if there's something necessarily good, bad, or however it works, Yeah, I mean, it's catch-22. I don't know. I mean, in some ways, the recorded version will be a much better version for us. Probably costs a lot less for them to make than doing it live stream, because they probably need a lot more people there to film it. So that's what I probably would think. Kelly says, apparently Dragon Ball fans weren't too happy when Disney Hulu broke the news that Diamond is ending at the end of February. Why is that? Okay, so this I did have a look into a little bit, because I'll be honest, didn't really notice it. I don't follow the show. It's probably the thing is, with what a lot of people don't necessarily Disney is huge, and Disney has lots of different divisions. Disney has lots of different people, different people working all over the place. You incorporate anime, which have then got other companies in place. Now, I have seen firsthand, and I've definitely had a number of phone calls with Disney regarding these kind of things, but sometimes the left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing. And in this case, Disney have probably been told that this is the last episode, and that's what they've said. They put out their release of everything that's coming in there, and they put it out there because the person writing the list probably hasn't got a clue what this stuff is. But the big problem is this other company that makes Dragon Ball, have they not communicated it? And it really comes from the fact of, the people putting out these lists and stuff, they have just been giving a list of stuff, and they've just put, and I think sometimes, we put a little bit too much thought into the idea that they know that they know what they're doing, but that they all know every single thing, what everything the division is, and it's just too big. And I imagine this is the case, really, where the Dragon Ball company that releases them really, in honesty, should have got that information out before they passed. But that if it was restricted, Disney needed to have known about it a little bit more. Let's see here, just on that topic. Just a bit right here. I know Disney was the first to break the news stories, but I believe Toei was the one who gave Disney the go ahead to announce when. I mean, they might just wanted to get it out of the way. They might just have wanted to get the news and rip it off and sort of hide it. But I suspect, again, it's just that thing of they didn't put out the idea. Miles says, in a recent interview with Empire magazine, Elio co-director Melody stated that the film has some sci-fi horror references, and ride that line of a PG movie. Long story short, Madeline stated that Elio would toe the line between PG and PG-13. What's your opinions on this? I think they have to be a little bit careful. They don't want to make it too scary. But if they can get the tone right, it could work. There's a lot of stuff that was, kids need a little bit of a push. You need a little bit of stuff. PG-13, there is a line, and they obviously want to ride that one there. But yeah, I would have faith that they can do it right, and they're probably going to get that balance right. I think they're probably going to slide much more for the PG side. I mean, you look at something like Pixar's work in the past. I mean, let's be honest, Up. I mean, there were some bits at the beginning there that was not, technically maybe kids aren't going to understand, but that was pretty hard hitting. Toy Story 3, that whole scene with them about to die. I mean, it wasn't kid friendly. Matt says, could we see an animation domination show in the future? Probably not really. I think Fox and Disney are probably a little bit too far apart on that now. Fox might want to do it with their own shows, because I think they're going to be trying to reduce their reliance on Disney anyway on 20th television, but I wouldn't have really imagined that they would want to do that one. Knoxwave says, I heard the Spider-Man Noir series has resumed filming. Are you excited for it? I don't know about the resuming, obviously, with everything going on in LA. I mean, it does feel like it's kind of easing off a little bit. Personally, no, I'm not going to lie. If this series never existed, I wouldn't care. I know. I think, again, they've just kind of burned me out a little bit. But like Keenan says, I really don't care for Marvel, to be honest. That's fine. That's cool. Knoxwave says, I'm happy that Marvel decided to reboot the production of Daredevil Born Again and make it a connection to the Netflix series instead of making it a standalone soft boot during the Chapek era. So I think some of the reasons why the Chapek era was done was, first off, I think there's a couple of issues with this. First off, I think Marvel Studios did not like the old Marvel Television division, and Marvel Studios took it over. And Marvel Television made that series, and so therefore Marvel Studios kind of, I would say, a little bit like maybe look down their nose at it a little bit because we can do it better than that. We can do better than this. We are much better than them. We've done Infinity War and all the rest of it. They then made some TV series that absolutely did not hit where it should have been. And they got, I think, a very rude awakening into the idea that Marvel Studios knew how to make movies. They didn't know how to make television. And they definitely didn't know how to make television on the television budget. And they kind of, I think, got their ears clipped by Bob Iger because, what are you doing? You're making television. Stop trying. You can't afford to do what you're doing there. So JPEG obviously did kick off the idea. And I think this idea of keeping it the same but keeping it different, and I think this idea of using the multiverse to get around it, I think they drastically overestimated how the audience was going to respond to the multiverse. I don't think most people understand what it is. And in all honesty, it's like Daredevil and all the rest of it. Daredevil was pitched as being as part of the MCU. There are references to the events in New York, aka the Avengers. They tied it in. They then brought Charlie Cox back, and they brought Kingpin back. And I'm sorry, but the way that they were trying to play this whole thing of them not being part of it, but it is, but it isn't, it's confusing. Just embrace it. It felt a little bit like you're trying to reinvent the wheel, but by reusing the same wheel, but then going, no, well, I don't want to give any credit to the person before it. And I think there was a little bit of they didn't want to bring it back because they know they had to pay residuals and stuff a little bit more. But I think they realized they were just making it super complicated. If they wanted to do Daredevil again and start at scratch, they should have started from scratch and brought in a new Daredevil, a new character, and all the rest of it. But the minute you brought these characters in, and once you brought Charlie Cox back, that was it. Don't try and, it just seems a silly thing. Babak says, with Goosebumps being an anthology series, should Disney greenlight multiple seasons and have them come out yearly during Halloween? I hope so. Hopefully enough people will check out this season. I mean, I don't necessarily think it's a bad idea if they alternate years, like every other year, but I think by the looks of it, these are relatively cheap shows to make. Sony are making them anyway, but I definitely feel the new Goosebumps would have done maybe a little bit better had it dropped around October time. It just feels a little bit weird doing it in January. Keenan says, why is Minions 3 releasing next year instead of 2027 and Shrek 5 pushing to December of late? So I think the simple truth is, I think Universal has realized there's some money in December. And so therefore wants Shrek having that big year in cinemas. And that's probably more what it is with Star Wars out the way, they can come in. Sonic's obviously done very well. Mufasa. There's money to be made in December, and I think they're going for it. Minions is going to make money no matter what, but Shrek could, if they do it properly, could be a big movie. Mario says, do you think that Disney Plus and Hulu have a strong lineup of upcoming TV shows to look forward to? Yeah, I think when you look at the two combined, they have got a really, really good lineup now of big hits. You've got a load of well-known shows. You've got like Grey's Anatomy. You've got your 911s. You've also got new shows like Paradise and Shifting Gears. You've got FX. Everything now coming through one platform. And this is that big difference of Disney Plus now has got new stuff dropping every single day. And there's live sports. And you've got it's no longer reliant on, even though when we do the lists and stuff, it's still very basic. There's not a lot of this. The Disney Plus side in the US is very light. But when you put it all together, you are really seeing now that why Disney is basically realized that spending hundreds of millions of dollars on content to fill the void that Hulu would have done anyway, they can save themselves so much money by not spending all that money on stuff. Also, let me know in the comments, what show are you looking forward to watching this year? It doesn't necessarily have to be Marvel or Star Wars. I mean, I think Andor is obviously going to be a very top one. Wonder Man for me. But yeah, there's lots of great stuff. Barbara Tron says, do you think Disney Plus will use sports to advertise Disney Plus originals and Hulu content? Maybe. I mean, it makes sense for them to roll ads to kind of promote them, but ultimately sports is there to pull in a different audience. And obviously during ABC, if they can put in shows to promote their own stuff, it makes sense. Plus, they're only paying themselves, so it saves money. I mean, it makes sense. If you got NFL game and you got a massive, great big audience watching it, chucking a trailer for Captain America, chucking a trailer for Disney Plus makes sense. Actually, I think I might have missed one there. Babak says it looks like Disney ad budget has been reset because I'm seeing tons of new ads for Disney Plus and Hulu. Well, generally, how advertising tends to work is there are seasons, and what would have happened is in the run up to Christmas, that's when advertising is most expensive, because everyone is trying to advertise to get you to spend money for the holidays, gifts, food, etc. So there's a lot of money gets spent in the run up to Christmas. It resets generally in January, because all the stuff that they're trying to flog you for Christmas presents, that all money goes. You start seeing a lot of travel adverts, and then they might flick into like Valentine's and things like that. But the advertising market reshifts, so it's cheaper for them to advertise. But also, Disney might also use the opportunity that if it's light on advertising, it might chuck in its own ads to fill the void. So generally, January, February is always the worst. It's the cheapest months to do advertising. It affects everything. YouTube channels, websites, etc. For me, January is always the worst month of the year in terms of advertising, and that's just how it is. So that's why nonetheless it does reset. The main reset generally comes in April, when they change budgets and stuff. But January is always a bit of a reset in terms of advertising. I'll do the last two pre-done questions, and then we'll be live for the rest of the show. Matt says, why is the Doctor Who Christmas special number 5 not in the Doctor Who collection? They probably forgot they got it. That's probably it. There is that thing of, and I don't know why, but it does really feel like, and this is, I think, one of the biggest problems with Disney, with having so many different apps, is that things get lost in the shuffle so much more, because so many different people are working things. If everybody was working on one app, they can focus on one thing. I do think they need, it just feel like that element of someone just to be like, I don't want to say a troubleshooter, but just someone just to highlight, I mean, obviously they're probably looking at videos and Reddit and all this kind of thing to try and, make sure there's no errors and stuff. But it does still surprise me that some of this stuff slips through, but they probably just forgot. They're probably on Christmas when it happened and forgot to put it in. Barrick says, what do you think Disney's most valuable brand is, and what do you think is their least valuable brand? I think without a doubt the most valuable brand is just going to be Disney. I think the Disney brand pulls people in. It works on so many different levels. You just have to look at the cruise ships, the theme parks. You walk into shops. I was in supermarket yesterday, big Disney banner, and everything in there. Again, they had big Disney stuff. Today, I went to one of my local game stores. I took part in a little Cana tournament, which is Disney's card game thing. So I did my very first tournament, lost, but I wasn't expecting to win because I haven't really played a lot. It was more of a learning experience. But then, they got the Disney banners up and everywhere, and it was really well attended. Disney just has a brand I think is bigger than it's. You say Disney to people and they know what it is, and I think that is without a doubt the biggest brand that Disney has. If you might necessarily call it, but I definitely feel like the Disney core brand, the princesses, Mickey Mouse, that kind of thing, core Disney. The least valuable Disney brand, I think that's very difficult because there's a lot of probably brands that we don't even think of as unvaluable. Now, for me, I don't think of ESPN as being it's not really a thing here in the UK. I know that's very different in the US because it's here it's just not a thing. ESPN, if I went into my supermarket and asked what ESPN is, probably 99% of people aren't going to know what it is. I know, when we were in Vegas, you had big ESPN signs everywhere. It's a big brand. I know maybe Oxive Collective. It's very difficult in terms of other brands and stuff. Certain ones are more well known internationally and less ones internationally as well. But yeah, so let me know in your comment. What do you think? Let me know in the comments. What do you think is the most valuable, and what one is the least valuable? All right, let's get in some questions. I'm just going to go to the top, make sure I didn't miss any from earlier on. Matt says, do you think we'll have a Captain America collection? Is there not one already? If there isn't, I would expect there to be one in February. I'm just going to have a look now. I am intrigued with the fact of, is there a Captain America one? No, we got Falcon and the Winter Soldier. No, okay, yeah. I would pretty much bet that we will get one. Let's see what we've got here. Kaylee says, I'm surprised that one of my questions become the headline this week because I literally thought it was a silly question since the business side of Disney was quiet. Yeah, it's been very quiet. Obviously, to be honest, the big thing really is it's a kind of a triple effect, really. January is usually a quiet time anyway for news. But obviously, there's been quite a few big bits of news, but also more importantly, the wildfires in LA obviously have devastated the area. It did drastically hit Disney. Numerous employees lost their houses, and obviously the other ones will be helping out their family. So essentially, Disney PR kind of shot back up, I think maybe the end of the week, but for a good week and a half, there really wasn't any major news coming out of Disney because they were dealing with something much more important. And so, yeah, it did get very, very quiet. Not this week wasn't the problem. The week before, as far as like news and PR stuff, very, very quiet again because something big went on this week as well. I mean, obviously, there is something major happening tomorrow in the United States, which obviously is going to take a lot of press away. Obviously, you got the TikTok thing as well. There's a lot of other stuff going on, which takes a lot of the attention and stuff. So, yeah, it's a bit of a. It is a bit of a. I mean, it's like tomorrow. I mean, I'm essentially just. I'll be catching up on some bits and pieces and stuff because I'm not expecting a lot of news tomorrow because they will just get. There's going to be too much noise. Kay says Disney ain't slick when it comes to Mufasa since they intentionally casted Shah Rukh Khan for Hindi dub, which contributed to the international box office. Yeah, that definitely helps. Kelly says, I know Disney owns a film studio in Australia, but that was acquired from Fox, and many non-Disney companies use the Aussie studios for productions like Mad Max. Yeah, it's a really good. I remember when I about 20 years ago when I was in Australia, I did go to the Fox studio in Sydney. And have you could walk around, and there wasn't a lot there, but I went there and had a look because why not? And they also, I think they've got a studio in Brisbane. I mean, it makes sense to film there. You want to take the most of having Australian talent, both behind and in front of the thing. Spread out your crew so you can film in different locations. Not everything can be then made. If they're making stuff in Atlanta, stuff in London, and if they can use studios in Sydney, it just makes sense to spread out to different locations. I think it just makes sense for them to do that. I think, yeah, it just makes total sense for them to do so. Let's just see. I'm just going to go down the list, see if there's anything else I've missed. Matt says, do you think Disney Plus will launch in more countries? Probably. I think they very much. I would imagine that most of the countries that they're in, they want to be in. A lot of the countries they're not in, they might be looking at and just going, these are just not priorities in terms of how much money are they going to make, essentially. And it is horrible, but they do look at each country and how much money are they going to charge to subscribe and how much money they're going to make in. If they're going to launch in a country and not make a lot of money, they probably aren't going to bother. There's still a lot of countries in, but I think they're very much lower down in terms of the ARPU that they make. Knoxwave says, kind of wish Disney could revive the Villains animated series based on the book series, but sadly they won't be into too dark for kids. I think that's one element that's too dark for kids, but also I think in general right now, kids are not watching animated series in the same way that we used to. And kids are watching differently, and I don't know. They've kind of got we're in a bit of an odd thing, and I don't think Disney's kind of worked out what to do with it yet. So I asked you, do you think Pixar is going to make more TV series? 61% of you think yes. 39% of you think no. I think they're going to be done myself. Kelly says, I think no, since I think they might just do occasional specials. Yeah, I think they'll do. I think they'll do shorts, but I don't think they're going to be doing series again. Knoxway said I prefer them to work on theatrical films. Miles says yes, they could wait a few years to maximize the quality of the series. I think the problem is they don't make any money from the series, and I think that's the biggest problem. Is win or lose is not. It might bring in some subscribers and it might make some viewing, but Inside Out made over $1.5 billion just at box office, and then you got to look at it of like all that. If they put Win or Lose as a film, they probably could have made. I don't necessarily think it would have been $1 billion movie, but they could have made a lot more money than making it as a series. We did that one. I'm sure I saw something there from so sooner. Here we go. Yeah, I thought. Do you think there'll be another Captain America movie for next year in 2026? So he is going to be one of the main characters in both of the Avengers movies, Secret Wars and Doomsday. He will be one of the front characters. That there won't be another Captain America movie because he will be the main guy. He'll be one of the main Avengers. Miles says, what do you think of the absolute worst part of the Inhuman series? What do you think was the absolute worst part of the Inhuman series? I remember when that came out, I think not really knowing too much. I mean, it was a little bit like S.H.I.E.L.D. did it really well. I think the big thing was the hair, with Medusa's hair. Just seemed a bit weird of getting rid of it. It just looked weird. Barbatronic says, do you think the flagship will have add-ons like NBA or RSNs? I don't think it's going to need NBA because it's got the rights to a lot of it. I don't think these RSNs are going to work much longer. I just don't see how that can work. Miles says, I'm looking forward to watching Win or Lose, Paradise Devil, Daredevil, Andor, and Good American Family. Not going to lie, I want to see all of them. So I'm definitely in. I'm definitely in on that one. Knoxville says, I have started watching It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. And I'm enjoying it so far. Good. I've never watched it. I don't even know if it's on. I don't think it's on here. I'm not very good at going back and watching old stuff anyway. Always Sunny. Yeah, it's not even on Disney Plus here in the UK. I think it's on Netflix or something because of no contract. Mara says, what are your thoughts on the reveal of the Nintendo Switch 2? And will you be attending the Switch 2 experience in London to try out the console before it launches? Well, the London bit, no. I wouldn't go all the way to London because I'm about 200 miles from London, so it's about a 400-mile round trip. It's a long way to go. I had the Switch, and I've had pretty much I've had a NES, I've had a Super NES, I've had a GameCube, I've had a 64, a Wii. I didn't buy the Wii U. That's the only one I didn't have. I've had a DS, a 3DS. Again, I have had every console. But I did sell my Switch console last year. I kind of got to the point of going, I haven't used it in a while. There's nothing really coming out on it that I've liked. So I got rid of it. Switch 2, to me, the Switch 2, if I get one, is going to come down to if the games are worth it. If there's a few games on there that I like the look of, that might entice me. I did sell all my Switch games, so I haven't got any of those ones. But I'm not very... A bit like with TV series, really. I tend to like just playing new games, and when the new game comes out, I play that. I don't really go back to old stuff. I tend to just focus on the new things. I mean, I might get the Switch 2. I don't know. Depends on the games. Depends on the games on it. If there's something like a new Mario. I didn't like the last Zelda very much. I liked the one before it. So I think it's going to come down to the games. I thought the announcement seemed a little bit underwhelming, but it feels a little bit like they were almost forced into revealing it because of all the leaks and stuff that was coming out. Yeah, I mean, it depends on the price whether or not I'll get one. Knoxwave says he's excited for Daredevil. HBO Last of Us season 2. Yeah, the first season was really good. Cobra Kai, part 3. I'll be honest, I have fallen off of Cobra Kai. I did watch the first 4 seasons. I kind of got bored of it. There was only so many fights of them yeah, I just kind of fell off of Cobra Kai. Invincible, never got into that one. Reacher season 3, I haven't watched season 2 yet. I haven't got Amazon, so I did like Reacher season 1 and/or Ironheart Visions. I'm not sure of Visions. Visions could be all right. Kelly says the most valuable brand from Disney is Mickey Mouse. Since the general think Disney, they think Nat Geo. I think the least valuable brand is Nat Geo in terms of perception. I think I can see why Nat Geo comes into that, because I don't think it means as much as it used to. Doesn't mean as much as it used to. Keenan says, speaking of Miles' question, do you think the Nintendo Switch 2 will have streaming services? Maybe more likely going to have them, because I know the amount of people that were asking for Disney Plus on the Switch, because they had the Hulu app, but they didn't really have a lot of streaming services. Maybe they could do. Ricardo says, hello, is it true that your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man will release during 4 weeks with 3 episodes being dropped in the middle? Yeah, so we had the release schedule got sent out earlier this week by Disney. And yeah, I was surprised by this because I thought it was going to be weekly, and it was like episodes like 3, 4, and 5 on the first week of February, and then 2. Yeah, they're literally dumping the show, a couple episodes a week. Ricardo says, did you know that Marvel didn't introduce any MCU roadmap for phase 5 or 6? I think the maps are only going to feature the movies now and the shows separately as Marvel Television. So I think the problem is Marvel kind of shot themselves in the foot with those roadmaps, because they created the roadmaps and everyone expects you to keep to the map. And then everything hit the fan, and then the entire roadmap got thrown in the air and didn't do anything. Star Wars has done the same thing with its roadmap. The simple truth is those roadmaps cause them a lot of problems. And the simple thing is, do we need them? Do we need a roadmap? Is it essential? If they don't show us one, it doesn't become a problem. And I think we're going to see with Marvel now that they're going to be much more tight-lipped. They're going to just announce stuff a little bit more when it's ready. Star Wars probably needs to do the same. But I think standing there and doing the big map and going, right, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, we're going to do this, doesn't work if you don't follow through. And I think they've realized that it's not a good idea. Miles says, do you think Disney could launch Disney Plus perks outside of the United States? I'm surprised they haven't. I think there's elements of Disney Plus perks that could work for certain things that could work for everybody, and certain things that could work. It's obviously there's a logistics issue. I mean, I personally think like offering us a discount off of booking directly through Disney for Disney World. If you're booking directly for your Disney cruise, we're going directly through the Disney website. It makes sense that everyone, if you could get given 5-10% off, that's what I want. Do that. Obviously, if you book your Walt Disney holiday through a travel agent or some other thing, you're not booking it direct. You can't have the discount. I mean, that's just But I can go onto Walt Disney World's website and get a discount. Disneyland Paris, I think things like that. They've done that in the past. It makes sense for them to do those kind of things. Offering free comic books, those are global. Offering you a discount off of Marvel Unlimited. Shop Disney is a little bit more tricky because obviously each country has its own version, and not all countries have Shop Disney or Disney Store. They kind of rebranded it. So like giving you a discount or special offers at the shop at Disney Store in the US is only applicable to US customers. But it'd be nice for them to do something here for the UK. Do the same thing maybe for Australia. If they're doing a special promotion of tickets, maybe if they offered you like $5 or £5 off of a London ticket for the West End, there's things they could do, but they've got to have staff in place. And is it cost effective? And it's where it gets tricky of local versus global. And they've kind of got that thing in place. And that's the difficulty. It's like offering, I don't know, to say, for example, let's say they offer a promo card for Disney Plus subscribers for Lorcana. Making it available globally would be much harder, because then if you've got France and Switzerland, you've got all these other countries, and it becomes a lot more logistics nightmare of how all of that gets done. Matt says, what do you think of Star Wars doing an anime series? How many a year? Again, I don't think anything more than one. I mean, if they're doing Visions, that's enough. I think I think personally, just do Visions. I don't think necessarily doing, if you're going to do Visions, you do Visions. If you want to do a completely long-running anime series for multiple seasons, do it. But you don't do both. The audience can't take it. Matt says, will 4 be in the new Avengers movie? Oh, 100%. I can't. They need some of the original Avengers, and 4 is like the only one that still kind of, I think, makes sense. Knoxway says It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia is on Disney Plus in the Middle East. Yeah, I think, it varies country to country. Barbatron says, do you think sports would boost the Disney Plus area or arena? I don't know. I think it will help. I think it definitely will help. Sorry, Keenan. So many words. Do apologize. Ricardo says, I think in the future, Disney Plus is going to integrate most of Hulu later on, maybe creating a 20th Century Studios style. I think that could happen, but that might not happen for years. I think they might just want to use that Hulu brand for a little bit more as a crutch to kind of get people in. Miles says, do you think that Walt Disney Pictures Presents billing has changed? Why do you think Walt Disney Pictures billing changed to Disney Presents, starting with the release of the Muppets? Probably because I think they're moving away from Walt Disney. I think the brand that Disney Presents, simpler and easier branding. I think they're slowly been moving away from the Walt Disney brand. Ricardo says it makes sense considering Daredevil starts in March. They want at least 1 week of a break. I think that's probably, it does feel a little bit like with Spider-Man. They're throwing it out there to get it out of the way before Daredevil without a shadow of a doubt. Kelly says, as Doc Brown says, roads, where we're going, we don't need roads. That's why Marvel Studios needs to show and not tell us. I 100% agree with that one. Miles says, what are your thoughts on the recent opening of the Robert A. Iger building at 7 Hudson Square in New York City, which serves as Disney's new East Coast headquarters? Well, if you're going to name it after somebody, I mean, I think Iger's not a bad person to name it after. I mean, I think most people have kind of got an idea that if you're going to call a thing, you're going to call it after Walt Disney or Roy Disney or something like that. But I think Iger makes sense. He got a lot of buildings. He has done a lot of work for the company. I mean, Eisner and stuff. There's other ones. I mean, yeah, it kind of makes sense. I mean, it's got to be. I mean, you don't really want, I don't know, Enchanted Tower or Moana. The Moana building. I think there's a bit. It's like you got to be a little bit difficult with how they do that one. Right, Bob Iger's originally from New York City, so it makes sense. Oh yeah, okay, that makes perfect sense. Right. On that note, guys, since we reached the end of the questions, feel free now to just put your last requests in for your questions before I finish off the day, because it's been a very long day. I've been busy. So again, this time next week, we'll be out with another live Q&A. So a big thank you to everyone for joining in this week. Again, a big thank you to all the Patreons and YouTube channel members for your support. It really does mean a lot. If you are a subscriber, thank you for watching the videos. It makes a big difference. Visiting the website. If you can, follow on Twitter, follow on Facebook, whatever you're using. Don't bother about TikTok, because that's not really something I'd like to use. So Facebook, Twitter, even just bookmark the website. That's the big thing. So that's definitely a big thing. Oh, thank you very much, Derek, for the super chat. Thank you so much. What kind of miracle does Warner Brothers Discovery need in its next DC if its next DC film fails? It's been too long since I last saw a DC film, and I cannot handle more disappointment from them. What was the last DC movie? The last one I watched was The Flash or Black Adam. I think it was The Flash. I think I watched it on the plane last year. I haven't seen Blue Beetle yet. Is there another one after that one? I do think DC. I think they're going to have a problem. I think they are going to have a problem with this new James Gunn routine. I think they are. To me, there seems to be a case of there's too much wriggle room. It's like, is this a reboot or is it not a reboot? Start from scratch or don't start from scratch. The way that they are doing it generally feels to me like they are confusing things and it's like the Batman. is the Batman part of the new version or not? If he is, then you shouldn't have released the Joker. Joker Part 2. If he isn't, if the Batman isn't part of the MC or part of the DCU, don't do Batman 2. Drop it. End it. Bring Batman in. I don't get the idea of doing the Batman Brave and Bold or Bold and Beautiful or whatever that kind of thing is. I just feel like they are drastically overestimating what the general audience can take. And it's like, Mario, you're saying about it being an Elseworlds film. I'll be honest, I don't think audiences don't care. And also, audiences want Joker. They wanted Joker to be Joker 2. They wanted to be like Joker. They want the Batman. They want, I think, this whole thing as well, like with Creature Commandos, and like, is this canon? Is this not? This whole thing should be a reboot from the start. And Superman, it's going to have an uphill battle. They are going to have to try and win audiences back. They got a better chance because it's a reboot and all the rest of it. I have got a lot of high hopes for Superman. It's got a lot of expectation. It's got a lot of weight on its shoulders. Again, I personally feel like with Superman, I feel like DC should have actually had a break. I think they should have done the Joker or whatever it is, and then I think they should have had a year or two away. But obviously, Zaslav wants to just keep running the money. He doesn't care. He doesn't care about any of this stuff. He doesn't give two rats ass as long as you're paying money for it. And I think that's the big problem. I think that I don't feel comfortable with this reboot for DC. But let me know what you guys think. But again, thank you so much, Derek, for your super chat. That was fantastic. Mara says, will you be watching the Switch 2 Direct? Yeah, I'll give it a go. Definitely give it a go. Kayla says, what are your thoughts on DirecTV doing skinny sports bundles? Well, if you can't do them yourself, you might as well at least sell them to everybody else. So you might as well do it. Matt says, where do you see Disney Plus 2 years from now? Very, very similar to what it is. I'm hoping by then Hulu might be integrated globally and integrated in the US. It'd be nice to finally get this thing sorted. ESPN, and hopefully just in a better position. Matt says, what do you think needs what do you think so he needs to do to get Spider-Man verse movies right? I think with Spider-Verse, I think obviously make the third one. I think by the looks of it, they probably should just do this third one and then just maybe wrap that up. Who do you think? Oh yeah, we did that one. That was don't worry. Thanks, Mars, for letting me know. Right. What do you think? So, oh yeah, we did that one. In terms of what do they need to do, just make a deal with Marvel, do them together, stop all this messing about. The audience is not interested in non-Spider-Man movies, and also they want Tom Holland as Spider-Man. That's what they want. Right. On that note, guys, thank you much for everyone for joining. Again, big thank you to Derek for your super chat. A big thank you to everyone for being a YouTube channel member and subscriber. Thank you so much. And on that note, guys, thank you very much. See you guys soon. Laters. Tally ho.